Let's get started. It's 4:01. Welcome to the new product request Ask Me Anything on Friday, June 20th, 2025. I'm Mark Copeland. I'm the Value Analysis Whisperer. I help med device companies get their products approved in ambulatory surgery centers, hospitals, and health systems. I believe that small med device makes the best products. I believe patients and doctors deserve access to them. But I also believe that doctors are sick, and this is what we're going to talk about today. I believe doctors are sick and tired of being champions for us. And if I may, most of them aren't very good at it anymore. And I'm going to show you a couple of reasons why. It's not that they're not smart enough, but the whole game has changed. And I just don't think they like doing it anyway. And I do believe that because of the massive consolidation of health systems and these new processes that have been put in place, I believe new product approvals has been hijacked. I won't say by whom, but I believe it's been hijacked, and I'm hijacking it back. I'm taking it back because patients deserve it. So do our clinical customers, our doctors and nurses. And frankly, health systems need it too. It's better for them. We lower costs, we improve outcomes. But we have to test it and prove it and show it. And that's not so easy today. And what the old ways that used to work don't work anymore. So this isn't Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions, you can put them in the comments. You can email me, and I'll give you the email address here in a second, mcope67, MCOPE67, at gmail.com if you want to be a little bit more subtle and you don't want to put your comments out there where the public can see it. But feel free putting them wherever you like. I might not get to your question that you email today, but I will definitely do my best to get to it next week if I can't get to it today. So it isn't Ask Me Anything, but we do have a topic that we're going to always cover. And first part of it is why can't my doctor get what he or she wants, which seems certainly reasonable. So my website is valueanalysisexpert.com. I have a YouTube channel, all of which where we put all of this material on so that if you want to listen and learn at a time that's more convenient to you, hopefully it's there. Our goal is to help companies and help reps, help their doctors and patients. Just looking at my notes here of anything else we have to cover. Let's see. So we do have a new Sutures and Cents podcast coming out starting in July, where I actually take a product I'm selling into hospitals, health systems, and ASCs, and I'm going to show you how the sausage is made. I'm going to show you how we do a business case, build it, and then who we go talk to and what we show them. And it's going to be a season-long episode of how I do this and how we do this. And I hope that it gives you good examples of what you could do with your products. I'm just looking for anything else. Oh yeah, next Friday, June 27th, is our first webinar, June webinar. It'll be at, it looks like 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and it will be what the heck is a business case, right? So we'll talk about that, but like I say business case, and a lot of people look at me and they're like, I don't really know what you mean. Well, I'm going to explain that to you and maybe give you a better sense of it because we need them. And that's our, I'm just looking for anything else. So if you want to sign up for that, it's a webinar. It will be a webinar. It will also probably be a LinkedIn Live. Matter of fact, it will be a LinkedIn Live. But if you want to sign up or you want me to remind you, whatever it is, just send me your email. We'll get you into the mailing list and make sure you are aware of it. So housekeeping. Gosh, housekeeping took me 4 minutes. That's brutal. So let's talk about today's topic, and then we'll hit questions that have been sent to me and any that you guys want to put in. And so thank you all. So here's the topic. Number one, why can't my doctor get what he or she wants, right? So let me back up. If you remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about the consolidation of health systems and processes have changed. Doctors, and another key factor, right? It used to be one hospital, doctor came in, he or she was extremely important, it was very collegial, it was a community. If he or she requested something and the price wasn't astronomical, he or she got it for their patients, right? Those days are kind of gone. There's a whole process through which you have to go now, a value analysis process. So, but I'm going to tell you there's two other reasons why it has changed. No, actually three. Number one is the consolidation. Number two, in 2014, 1 out of 4 doctors was employed by a health system or hospital. Fast forward to 2024, it's around 3 out of 4, almost 4 out of 5. So I don't know if if you're like me, if you work for a big company, you tend to tread a little bit more lightly. Um, you're an employee now. You're still a very, very important, valued, preeminent employee, but you're an employee. Make no mistake. So the political juice that a lot of physicians felt like they had, now they feel like they don't have, right? So that's part number two as to why it's harder for them to get what it is. Number three, I'm going to show you something. It's sort of math. So let me show you this graphic, and I upset a surgeon about this until I explained it to him one time. This is not meant as a pejorative to the surgeons or doctors. This is just reality, right? So I'm going to pop a slide up there. So I tell people your busiest champion, stud, surgeon, intensivist, ER, unfortunately, those doctors are a rounding error these days. And here's what I mean. Let me show you an example. A really busy orthopedic surgeon. We know it matters because they bring in a lot of revenue. And it's high contribution margin is the term, or it's basically a high profit margin on those cases for the hospital or ASC, particularly in hospitals, though. That doctor, a busy one, brings in $10 million a year of revenue, right? That's a lot of revenue they're bringing in. Like I said, they're a very important employee. But if you look at them and compare them, I have on here Kaiser Permanente's revenue, $373 million a day. $10 million a year for the busiest orthopedic surgeon in any place is versus $373 million a day. Now, that I joke, this is why surgeons don't necessarily like it, but I'm like, that cocky surgeon is basically Kaiser Permanente's coffee budget in a day. And my good friend Cameron Majid, high-performing, super-trained, great spine surgeon out at Kaiser Permanente, if you're hearing this, please don't get upset at me. But it's a fact, right? So you can understand now why doctors sort of feel like cogs in the machine as opposed to being a major component, the engine of the machine, because they're just not as big as and important as they used to be. Right or wrong, it just is. So this is some of the reasons they're in big health systems with a lot of bureaucracy. They're employed, and they're just not as big of a revenue generator relative to the facility in which they work or the company for whom they work anymore. If you're a big med device sales rep, perhaps that sounds familiar, right? I'm not one. I never will be. There's a reason why. Okay, so when we say that they don't get what they want anymore, it's partly because of that. Mostly because of that. So, question number two, what the heck should I do? Well, number one, I would say when a clinician says, hey, I really like this, stop right there. A lot of times they'll say, but you got to get it approved, or we're never going to get it approved, or it's got to be cheaper, right? Just stop right there and say, great. I'm glad you like it. Parenthetically, I would urge you to try to get multiple physicians in that specialty or different departments at however it is you're selling. If you're selling an airway management, you might need anesthesia, ICU, emergency department, respiratory, right? You want to get some consensus if you can. You should try to get some consensus. But what you should say to all of them is just, cool. I'm glad you like it. Now we have to go do a business case. And that's what we're going to talk about next Friday. We have to do a business case. Don't request it because they're just going to turn it down. They're not even going to know what it is. And they're just going to say no. Automatic veto, generally speaking, especially if you're a small med device company, right? So you want to take ownership of this process. You are the captain of this ship. If you've seen the movie, you run this, not the doctors. Take it off their plate. They'll actually be thankful that someone else is going to do it for them. So what I would say is stop right there. Do that and just say, I got to work on a business case. Now, if you've worked with me or you've gotten good at this, you already have a preliminary business case sort of figured out and built. You might want to grab their information as best you can. And you're talking to whoever is different doctors within the same specialty, different departments within the same facility, different departments in different facilities across the health system, which is optimal if you have a couple people that can work with you and build consensus and count votes and things like that. But I'm telling all of my clinicians, under no circumstances do you need to submit this, and please don't, because we're not going to submit till we think we're ready. And we're not ready. And what they often, you can actually see them go, oh, thank goodness, because I was afraid you're going to ask me to go for this. And, and sometimes I'm like, frankly, I only have so much political capital, and I'm going to use it on a big thing that I need, as opposed to your whatever it is, right? You want to take ownership. We control this. And that's how I think reps should think. That's how I think companies should think. Now, that all sounds great, because what you're going to do is you're going to end up presenting the business case you come up with to these doctors so that they buy in. But the real person is number 3. Who should I talk to? Who's next? Who do I take this business case that you're going to teach me about, Cope, down later in the summer? Who do I take that to? Well, I'm going to tell you who your different and new champions are. And your new champions are the people who run the service line in which you sell. Now, let me back up for a second, because I've understood people look at me and go, what's a service line? All right, so did you ever go into Home Depot and you walk in and there's a garden department over to the right, and there's lumber away over to the left, and there's plumbing back here, and there's paint over here, right? Like there's different departments. Think of health systems like that. There's a Urogyne service line. There's an ICU service line. There's an emergency department service line. There's medical. There's the operating room. And within the operating room, there's multiple subgroups, right? Sub-business units. Some of them are smushed together. In the OR, you'll find ENT, neuro, spine. Sometimes, depending on the size of the place, is pushed together into one service line. And usually, there is a person who's in charge of the service line. Now, don't confuse this with the sort of the manager who runs and makes sure everything's staffed and all the supplies. No. It's usually above that person. That person's important. They can be helpful, but the person that's above them is usually a director of the service line. Oftentimes it's a nurse that's been promoted once or twice, not always. And they understand 2 things that you are going to show them: the clinical case and the business case. Now, later on this summer, we're going to talk about, and probably it's the August webinar, who these people are, what their titles look like, what they want to see, what they want to understand. But this is what I tell reps these days and companies is stop expecting doctors to push it through, because they're not going to be able to, generally speaking. Occasionally it'll happen, but that is a strategy that is dying every single day on the vine. It just isn't going to work. It doesn't really work now. And you want to take control of this. You're going to be the maestro. You're going to dictate how this is done. And that's what we're going to talk about all summer long, about how to do this. But today was, here's why your doctors can't do it, generally speaking, and don't want to do it. Now, I will tell you, a good way to do it is to get a good business case. And if you just feel like you want doctors to make the business case, teach them the business case and let them go do it to the leadership. They're not bad. They're pretty good. But I have found that they like it when I go upstairs and give the business case to the business people, the clin biz, I call them. They're clinical in business, that they don't have to do it. And it takes it off their, goodness knows, these clinicians that we call on. I mean, let's be honest. Goodness knows they do enough for other people, and that they do enough for me. If I can take this load off them, I'm kind of happy to do it. Plus, frankly, I get to know it's done my way. Right or wrong, it's my way. I'm going to do it this way. Right? And now I have groundswell and people who are vouching for it and people who want it, but don't have to lift a finger, really. And wouldn't we all like a little bit more of that in our lives? Right? So hopefully that helps give you a perspective. Check in next week's webinar Friday, and all of this stuff's going to be posted. So if you miss it, or you're on vacation, or you're just like, don't have time, Cope, and you decide you change your mind, you want to go learn, it will all be posted on the YouTube channel and our website. Okay. So you will be able to find these things, but I want people to know, if you take control of this process and don't rely on your doctors, you control the process. And then you need a strategy, right? And that's what we're going to talk about all summer. But do not let them request it, because it's much harder to sell into a health system after someone has told you absolutely not than it is to. So don't ask. Don't ask. Don't request it, because they might say no. And now you just backed up. It's like a holding call in football when you're starting your own 20-yard line. Well, now you're on your own 10. You actually made your life a little bit harder. Don't do that. There's no law that says you have to request it. Your doctor has to request it the minute they look at my, this is Cope. This is so awesome. I must put this in green light today. I'd say, via con Dios, my friend, because that baby's going nowhere in today's health systems. So that's the thought of this week. So we have Ask Me Anything. If you want to put a question in the chat, fire it in, give it to me. I have questions that people have sent to me, and I'm double checking the messages to make sure I didn't miss any over here. I don't think so. Okay. So Joshua, again, thank you. Any question you have, just type it in. Okay. So here's one of the questions I got that I thought was kind of interesting. Let me hear it. Sorry, it's right here. And it's from, I don't give names. It's from my friend Steve in Massachusetts. And Steve in Massachusetts said, hey, Cope, should we talk to supply chain? He didn't say Cope, I added that, but he said, should we talk to supply chain? And I'll be honest, I go back and forth on this. Should you? Absolutely. Should you introduce yourself? Let's say you dropped me in North Carolina and said, you got to call on Novant, Cope, right? The first stop I would probably try to make out of good conscience is supply chain. I would try to make an appointment and say, here's who I am. I'd introduce myself. Here's what we sell. There's no one here interested, because it's brand new territory. But I want you to at least know who I am and see how they respond. Oftentimes I found they just ignore you. This is not 2015 where they would invite you and say, yeah, sit down 15 minutes. Thanks. We appreciate it. We appreciate you coming. That doesn't really happen much anymore. And I get yelled at by supply chain people in LinkedIn. You should come in. You have to talk. We want to understand this. And I'm like, okay, could you tell these people at these other health systems? Because they just totally ignore all of us. And by the way, we have pretty cool products, right? So I would say yes. I would try multiple times. I would document when I did it. Because if they don't get back to you and then you go call on doctors, guess who one of the first phone calls is? You get supply chain yelling at you. How dare you talk to our doctors? I'm like, well, you didn't come to us first. My friend, I did on these dates at these times. I sent you emails. I stopped by, I checked with your nothing. You didn't pay any attention. So please don't yell at me for talking to your doctors before I talk to you, because you wouldn't meet with me. So supply chain can be tough. They're good people. They have a job to do. They're trying to lower the cost, but they are not empowered necessarily to understand the decisions that they make, how it affects other areas of the hospital. And they can tell you no. And if I may, why would I let somebody tell me no who can't say yes to me? Right? They could say yes all day long, but it doesn't mean doctors are going to use it. So they're good people. They have a job to do. They're just trying to do right by the health system's money. I don't have an issue with that. So I would try to, because you do find sometimes where they're good people and they're like, yeah, no, I'm glad you came in. Tell me about this. Look, it's going to be tough. You're not on our GPO. You're not a contracted vendor. That's not really how we roll around here, but at least you started a relationship, and a good one, a professional one, right? So I would say to my friend Steve in Massachusetts, I would do that. Yeah. So what do you mean a business case is what Kevin in New Jersey said to me. So, all right, we'll do that real quickly. A business case does not mean just money. A lot of people confuse it. That's financial. That's economics. Financial or economics, however you choose to describe it, is part of a business case, but not all business case is economics. And here's what I mean by that. And I've had supply chain people tell me, we'll pay more for things. And it's usually because they understood what they were getting for it. This thing cost 30% more. However, we found that it got our cases done earlier, or it got more people through our clinic, or we didn't have things break, 1 out of every 5 times the cheaper one broke. We've had no problems with the more expensive one. It doesn't make sense. Like, they start to look at the business case as opposed to the acquisition price, which is the economics, right? So if you think of a lot of times your new product, I like to think of my new product, especially if it's more expensive, which often mine are, is it's an investment. What do they get for it? And sometimes what they get is satisfied patients, happier doctors, a smoother clinic, a smoother operating OR. Like, one example of a part of a business case, and I'll give you the 3 buckets they kind of fall into. One's clinical, right? Outcomes, patients. There's strategic, which means, hey, if we buy Copeland's thing, our surgeons are happier, they get done sooner, and they're telling other surgeons to bring their cases here. And that's a strategic goal we, the health system, have of attracting more robotic cases or neurosurgical cases, whatever it is, right? If your product leads your customers to believe that that would happen, that's a strategic win. Another would be an operational win. So again, it was clinical patient outcomes, right? Better outcomes if you have those, great. Or safer outcomes, like that's a clinical outcome, or just, hey, this decreases the likelihood of risk. That's a clinical benefit. Strategic benefit would be, again, attracting other doctors, attracting other patients, maintaining our staff, letting our staff, letting our staff not injure their backs as much. Hey, there's my man Showman. And then, like, the other one is operational. This is the fourth leg of the stool, because financial is the fourth leg, right? And frankly, if I can credit this, I stole some of this from Jim Surik. He has what I call the Surik funnel: clinical, financial, strategic. I've added operational. Okay. So if your product costs 10% more, but lasts 50% longer, that's like a yield. Operational is a little bit more like this. Hey, if we do this for patients, they don't have to come back in the 90-day global as much. And so we can pull patients who couldn't get in for a couple of months. We can pull them in sooner. We're trying to get our clinic more efficient. And this helps us get patients who couldn't get in for 5 months, get in for 3.9 months, right? That's an operational win that I've seen so many products actually do things like that, but the reps don't talk about it, or they don't put enough specificity into it. That's an operational win. So when you start to build a business case, it sounds something like this. Hey, here's the problem we have. We have patients that are stuck out 5 months, can't get them in. We have patients coming back multiple times after surgery within the 90-day global. We're glad they come in, but it's not letting us treat as many patients as we think we could if we were more efficient. This, and I'm making this up, closure device, while it costs $500 more per procedure, and it's going to cost us $500,000 more a year, will allow us, we believe, to bring more patients in, get more patients into clinic, lower our wait time to get into clinic from currently 5.1 months to 3.9 months, as we've estimated, which will bring in additional revenue, make doctors happier, improve patient satisfaction, and generally speaking, it's a pretty darn good business case. Right now, will they turn it down? Maybe. Will they buy? Possibly. But you now have made the business case that's more than just, hey, this closure device costs $500 more. And we got to figure out a way to hope they'll like it, because there's no way supply chain will buy it if it's $500 more than what we're currently using, right? Think of how many times we've been in that. Thank you, Showman. I appreciate it. So, and I love your comment, by the way. You would be amazed. You want to look cool with your doctor customers, and by the way, who doesn't? Like, I'm in a constant battle to try to look interesting to these smart people. They know clinical better than you. You probably know business cases better than they do. Not always, but you'd be surprised. Now, they're super smart, but that's not their training. When I come in and say, hey, listen, you may not believe me, but I know this closure device of mine costs $500 more, and you looked at me like I had 9 heads when I came in here. But But let me show you how it's going to save money and strategic wins. And I think the health system might actually like this. You like it because you think it'd be better for patients, but you think $500 might be too much for them. Let me show you what that $500 buys everybody, right? And you walk them through this business case. And this is what I help reps and companies do. A lot of times they're like, wow, I got to tell you, I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know that. You're like, well, I mean, how could you? Like, you're too busy taking care of patients all day long and fighting with insurance companies. This is my job to make your job a little bit easier. And in today's business, I need to give you great clinical products, but I need to help you have a business case so that when you like something, we try to get wins for patients, doctors, and the place you work, ASC, hospital, health system. And I'll tell you, folks, like, you'd be amazed at your products, how innovative they are. It's not just for the patient or the doctor. They actually do a lot of these things. I have yet to find one that doesn't, frankly, because smart people create these. It's the message is lost a little bit, or the audience is incorrect, or, and I've seen this, I'd love Showmet. Like, I'd come calling me from a plane. This is unbelievable. I find a lot of reps, myself included, because we weren't trained on business cases and how to present to business people, are kind of uncomfortable doing it. I mean, I've told this story many times. The first time I sent an email to a VP of surgical services for a product, Showmet and I both sold at one point. I won't mention it, but he would know it if I said it. And it had this great business case, but it was a higher price. And I sent the email to this VP of surgical services who I knew a little bit. And I sent it to her and I was like, oh God, she is just going to blow me up. She's going to make me look like a complete ass. 2 minutes later, I get an email back. Hey, this is perfect. This is exactly what I needed. Thanks. And I had to pretend like I wasn't surprised. I had to, instead of me going like, really? I was like, oh yes, of course. So I'm glad that's exactly what you're needing for. Let me know if you need anything else. I acted like I was really cool. First time I did, I was so nervous. As I've joked, I looked like Patrick Ewing at the foul line. I was sweating like I was defusing a bomb. It's not easy, but you can do it. And that's what I try to teach everybody is you can do it. I will help and we'll give you the methodology. You will have to take a big first step at some point if you decide to do this, but you take your business case, that fake product I made up with the closure device, and say to the doctor, I know why you like it. Here's why the health system might actually like it. You show that business case, you will be amazed at how they look at you differently. They look at you with a different kind of respect. I'm sure they already respect you. You'd be amazed. So follow my stuff if you want. This is what I try to teach people so that you can do it DIY. You can learn how to do it because it's how I learned, right? I read books. I listened to people. I talked to really smart people. And I think I came up with this and it works because it's legitimate. You have a great clinical product. You have a great business case. We got to make those cases to two different audiences now. Doctors, nurses, clinical, the business people. And that would be my take home. Those are the new champions versus your doctors, if that makes sense. Oh yeah. Yeah. So somebody just typed in, check this out. This will be more and more important for surgeons too, because we are already starting to get report cards on how much our surgery costs compared to colleagues and benchmarks. So having data about what the increased cost adds benefits wise will be important. It will be integral, right? Like it won't just be important. I actually think we're going to have it. And if we don't, we're never going to get in the front door. But the good news is most companies have it. And they actually think they have to do these big, randomized controlled trials and publish data. You don't. Sometimes you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you don't need it all the time. Because how many times do you buy things? You don't have a big business case or a big, study that showed you why, yes, I will buy pizza from this place because it is whatever. Like, no, it's not how most people think and buy. But you got to have a legitimate case, right? So thank you for LinkedIn user sending that because you're absolutely right. Doctors are getting, here's our cost of care, right? And don't confuse cost of care with value, right? But you're going to have to tell people this is exactly what it costs and this is what you get for it. And the sooner you're comfortable with that, the more you'll sell in 2025 and frankly 2030. So thank you for chiming in. I got one more question and then I'll let everybody go on their day. But please, while I look this up, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will help. I help surgeons, I help reps, and I help companies. I charge companies. But I help everybody else because you guys are on the front line. And you just need a little strategic help, right? And sometimes a little confidence that this new way will work. What was the other one I got? What has changed? We covered that. Oh, I say treat the account like a customer. So if you think of your customers as a patient, and they said, what the heck does that mean? Think of the patient as one of your customers, right? We all probably do in med device. The physicians and nurses that you call on, they're kind of customers, right? Now I would say, think of the ambulatory surgery centers. How does this help their business? And if I talk to them about their business like they're a customer, because they are, what would matter to them? What could I bring to them that helps them? And if you don't know, I will book a time and I'll try to help you with it. But I'll tell you how I found out. I went in and asked a bunch of ASC administrators and owners. I'm doing it again the first week in July with a surgeon who owns his own surgery center. I'm just saying, like, what matters? What moves the needle? What matters to you? Not because I'm trying to sell them anything. I'm actually not. I'm trying to take the pulse of what matters to these people so that when I come in and I have something, I know what matters to them. Sales 101. That's, you're right. I'm laughing at what Showman wrote, and it's not really an inside joke, but he's right. It's a Globus. It's a Globus. All the Globus stuff was always more expensive. And frankly, some of it was really darn good. It had a great business case, and I was forced to make it multiple times at multiple hospitals. That's how I got the nickname. So I hope this helps people understand that all of this will be posted on our YouTube, and we're here to help, right? Because you're reps, you're on the front line. I'm a sales rep. We're all on the front lines. And this is frankly what your patients deserve, your doctors deserve, and your new customers, the ASCs and hospitals deserve. And I promise you, it works because it's what they want. And you will be so happy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, capital is more challenging, Showman's saying. He's absolutely right. But the same thing, like, capital reps have actually done this for a long time. They've made business cases, right? Because they have to. Because you're asking you to write a check for $1.9 million for something, right? What do we get for that? They're sort of naturally trained at that. But if you're not a capital rep, you've not probably been trained on that. So thank you guys. Thank you, LinkedIn user. Thank you, Showman. It's so good to sort of see from you, if that makes any sense. Let me know if I can help. You can book a time here. You can book it on my LinkedIn. My email is mcope67@gmail.com. Email me. I'll get you on my mailing list so you know when all this stuff's going on. We're trying to make a really good library so that you can teach yourself or maybe your reps. And I'm actually I did one this morning. I'm doing talks to sales forces so that, they understand why all this stuff has changed. And I have a whole keynote presentation to help your sales force understand what they're dealing with, because we're really good salespeople. We're really good getting the attention of doctors and helping them and understanding that. But we got to get a little bit better. We have another skill set we have to practice now and learn. And you can learn it. And I'm going to try to teach it, because if I help you some way, I help some patients in many ways. So thanks, everybody. Call me if you need me. Book a time if you want something. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. See you. Thanks, Vendela.